Truvvatsalah Amgrunita Varam Vatsa Ityapruchata Na Pruthak. So in the 14th chapter, third canto, 14th chapter, we can see how Diti is begging to her husband. From the 10th verse onwards, she says that what I can do is Kamadev is shooting arrows on me. So I have a Prabala Ichha like a mad elephant. Only you can show her mercy on me. And it is said, a woman's fame and a husband's fame increases by having many children. And woman is also honored by the benediction of her husband. So my father, Daksha, in the 12th, in the 15th, 13th verse, my father, Daksha, is very affectionate to every daughter. He asked us separately whom we prefer to select as our husband. We told your name. She said, actually, my father asked, you want whom? I told, I want you. So in this way, you see how this is a cunning talk, isn't it? Like the demand is in the wrong time. On top of that, showing as if some upkara she has done. Because Daksha is a king and Kadam Muni is a sage. See, everybody asked separately, I told your name. Saviditvatmajanamno bhavam santana bhavanah त्रयोदशादधाताशां यास्ते शीलम् अनुव्रताः. So our well-wisher Daksha, our well-wishing father, he knows our intention. He handed over 13 girls, 13 of his daughters to you. And everybody has children except me. Then we have all been faithful. 13 daughters have been given to Karda Muni. And especially she is very envious about Aditi. Because Aditi has all wonderful devatas as the children. So in this way, oh, athame kuru kalyanam, therefore, kuru kalyanam, please kindly do some kalyanam, give benediction. Kamam kamalalochana. You can only give your kamalalochana. Your eyes are like a lotus flower. Arto pasarpanam bhuman. Amogham hi mahiyasi. When someone is in distress, approaches a great person, his pleas should never go in vain. I have approached you, Upasarpanam, O Bhuman, O great one, Amogham, without fail, you should give. That is a quality of a great person, Mahiyashi. The way that the demand is put. How many verses are there? Till here. Okay, till here you read, Aruna. So many. Diti Ruvacha is still going on.
Hare
Read from
Krishna.
10th verse to 15th verse. Yeah.
Hare Krishna. Ditiruvacha. Esha mam त्वत्कृते विद्वन् काम आत्तशरासनः दुनोति दीनां विक्रम्य रम्भामिव मतङ्गजः. Translation: in that place, the beautiful Diti expressed her desire, O learned one, Cupid is taking his arrows and distressing me forcibly as a mad elephant troubles a banana tree. Purport by Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Beautiful Diti, seeing her husband absorbed in trance, began to speak loudly, not attempting to attract him by bodily expressions. She frankly said that her whole body was distressed by sex desire because of her husband's presence, just as a banana tree is troubled by a mad elephant. It was not natural for her to agitate her husband when he was in trance, but she could not control her strong sexual appetite. Her desire was like a mad elephant, and therefore it was a prime duty of her husband to give her all protection by fulfilling her desire. Text 11. तद्भवान् दह्यमानायां सपत्नीनां समृद्धिभिः प्रजावतीनां भद्रं ते मय्या युक्तामनुग्रहम्. Translation. Therefore, you should be kind towards me by showing me complete mercy. I desire to have sons, and I am much distressed by seeing the opulence of my co-wives. By performing this act, you will become happy. Purport by Srila Prabhupada ki jai. In Bhagavad Gita, sexual intercourse for begetting children is accepted as righteous. A person sexually inclined for simple sense gratification, however, is unrighteous. In Diti's appeal to her husband for sex, it was not exactly that she was afflicted by sex desires, but she desired sons. Since she had no sons, she felt poorer than her co-wives. Therefore, Kashyapa was supposed to satisfy his bona fide wife. Text 12. भर्तर्याप्तोरुमानानां लोकानाविशते यशः पतिर्भवद्विधो यासां प्रजया ननुजायते. Translation. A woman is honored in the world by the benediction of her husband, and a husband like you will become famous by having children because you are meant for expansion of living entities. Purport by Srila Prabhupada ki jai. According to Rishabhadeva, one should not become a father or mother unless one is confident that he can beget children whom he can deliver from the clutches of birth and death. Human life is the only opportunity to get out of the material scene, which is full of the miseries of birth, death, old age, and diseases. Every human being should be given the opportunity to take advantage of his human form of life, and a father like Kashyapa is supposed to beget good children for the purpose of liberation. Text 13. Pura pitano bhagavan. पुरा पितानो भगवान् दक्षो इत्यपृच्छत न पृथक्. Translation. In days long ago, our father, the most opulent Daksha, who was affectionate to his daughters, asked each of us separately whom we would prefer to select as our husband. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. It appears from this verse that free selection of a husband was allowed by the father, but not by free association. The daughters were asked separately to submit their selection of a husband who was famous for his acts and personality. The ultimate selection dependent on the choice of the father. Text 14. Saviditvatmajanamno bhavam santana bhavanah त्रयोदशाददात्तासां yaste शीलमनुव्रताः. Translation. Our well-wishing father Daksha, after knowing our intentions, handed over 13 of his daughters unto you, and since then we have all been faithful. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. Generally, the daughters were too shy to express their opinions before their father, but the father would accept the daughter's intentions through someone else, such as a grandmother to whom the grandchildren had free access. King Daksha collected the opinions of his daughters and thus handed over 13 to Kashyapa. Every one of Diti's sisters was a mother of children. Therefore, since she was equally faithful to the same husband, why should she remain without children? Text 15. Atame kuru kalyanam kamam kamalalochana artopasarpanam bhumnam amogham hi mahiyasi. Translation. O lotus-eyed one, kindly bless me by fulfilling my desire. When someone is in distress, approaches a great person, His plea should never go in vain. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. Dhiti knew well that her request might be rejected because of the untimely situation, but she pleaded that when there is an emergency or a distressful condition, there is no consideration of time or situation. Hare Krishna.
Over. Next. सीतां वीरमारीचः कृपणां बहुभाषिणीं प्रत्याहानुनयन् वाचा प्रवृत्सीय प्रवृद्धानङ्ग 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 प्रवृद्धानङ्गकश्मलम्. Okay. So hero Vidura. So here Maitri watches. Maitri is speaking all these things. How Diti was so afflicted by the contamination of the lust, and therefore poor and talkative was pacified by the son of Marichi in suitable words. But here it was Diti watching. Now the summary, summarizing that how the son of Marichi, that is, it's not Kartamuni. Kartamuni and Devaki, that is Kashyap. Kashyap. Kashyap, son of Marichi Kashyap. He was trying to pacify her. She's too talkative. He was trying to pacify her. And she was highly agitated with lust. That is why if somebody doesn't know the Gotra, na, they should say Kashyap Gotra. In Karmakand, they say, tell Kashyap Gotra. Like we say, if we don't know the Gotra, then Prabhupada says, say Achyuta Gotra. But in Karmakand, because demons are also that want to, divine lineage is also there, and demonic lineage is also there. So the living entities, if they don't know the Gotras, maximum 90% fall from Kashyap Gotra only. Because he married 13 girls and so many progeny was there. So here, Maitreya is saying,
Mataji,
let us see
even
how he's.
birds are also their son, like Garuda, snake.
Yeah. Yeah, they will also come now. Different living entities now. Kashyap's, now Kashyap's wife, Vinita is whose wife? Tell me. Vinita is whose wife? We have that.
Vasuki.
Vinita.
Vinita means Vasuki ki mummy.
Then whose wife?
Kashyap.
Then so like that, Vasuki also a child. Many living entities, but all important people were born.
Yes, Mataji.
एष तेहां विधास्यामि प्रियं हीरो यदिच्छसि तस्याः कामं न कुर्यात् यतः. So now it is a third person talk. One is first person, direct talk. One is third person. When you are telling that he spoke like that, in that way Maitreya is saying that how Kashyap was trying to pacify. He says, oh, I shall forthwith gratify whatever desire is dear to you. For who else but you is the source of three perfections of liberation? So I'll gratify your desire. O afflicted one, vidhasyami, I shall execute. You are so dear. Whatever you desire, I will give you. सर्वाश्रमानुपादाय सर्वाश्रमेण कलत्रवान् व्यसनार्ण येति जलयानैर्यथार्णवम्. Now see what Kashyapun is telling. He says it is easy to cross the dangerous situation of this material world by having a wife, as one can cross over the ocean with a sea-going vessels. In the same way, this material ocean can be crossed by a wonderful wife. Yama huratmano dardha श्रेयस्कामस्य मानिनी यस्यां स्वदूरमधस्य स्वदू स्वदूरम यस्य पुमांश्चरति विच्वरः. So why a wife is known as better half, Artham? Because she is sharing all the auspicious activities. A man can move without anxiety, entrusting all responsibilities to his wife. Wife is there, that is why he can go out now. He can go out, he can go to work. Just imagine if wife is not there, then he has to do all the work, then he has to go. So it is better. So that is why she is known as better half. That means she is so helpful. She is looking after so many auspicious things. Till here, Raksha read 4 verses.
Yes,
16.
madam. Yes, madam. Luka 16. इति तां वीरमारीच कृपाणां बहुभाषिणीं प्रत्याहानुनयन वाचा प्रवृद्धान् अंगकश्मलाम्. Translation: O hero Vidura, Diti being thus afflicted by the contamination of lust and therefore poor and talkative was specified by the son of Marichi in suitable words. Purport by Srila Prabhupada ki jai ho. When a man or woman is afflicted by the lust of sex desire, it is to be understood as sinful contamination. Kashyap was engaged in his spiritual activities, but he did not have sufficient strength to refuse his wife who was thus afflicted. He could have refused her with strong words expressing impossibility, but he was not as spiritually strong as Vidura. Vidura is addressed here as a hero because no one is stronger in self control than a devotee of the Lord. It appears that Kashyap was already inclined to have sexual enjoyment with his wife, and because he was not a strong man, he tried to dissuade her only with pacified words. Luka 17. एष तेऽहं विदास्यामि प्रियं भीरु यदच्छसि तस्या कामं न कुर्यात् सिद्धित्रैवर्गकीयतः. Translation: O afflicted one, I shall forthwith gratify whatever desire is dear to you. For who else but you is the source of the three perfection of liberation? Purport by Srila Prabhupada ki jai ho. The three perfection of liberations are religiosity, economic development, and sense gratification for a conditioned soul. The wife is considered to be the source of liberation because she offers her service to the husband to his ultimate liberation. Conditioned material existence is based on sense gratification, and if someone has the good fortune to get a good wife, is helped by the wife in all respects. If one is disturbed in his conditioned life, he becomes more and more entangled in material contamination. A faithful wife is supposed to cooperate with her husband in fulfilling all material desire so that he can then become comfortable and execute spiritual activities for the perfection of life. If, however, the husband is progressive in spiritual advancement, the wife undoubtedly share in his activities and thus both the wife and the husband profit in spiritual perfection. It is essential, therefore, that girls as well as the boys be trained to discharge spiritual duties so that at the time of cooperation both will benefit. The training of the boy is brahmacharya and the training of the girl is chastity. A faithful wife and spirituality trained brahmachari are a good combination for advancement of the human mission. Shloka 18. सर्वाश्रमानुपादाय स्वाश्रमेण कलत्रवान् व्यसनार्णवमत्तेति जलयानेर्यथार्णवम्. As one can cross over the ocean with seagoing vessels, one can cross this dangerous situation of the material ocean by living with a wife. Purport. There are four social orders for cooperation in the endeavor of liberation from material existence. The orders of brahmacharya or pious student life, household life with a wife, retired life, and renounced life for all depend for successful advancement on the householder who lives with a wife. This cooperation is essential for the proper functioning of the institution of the four social orders and the four spiritual order of life. This Vedic Varnashram system is generally known as the caste system. The man who lives with a wife has a great responsibility in maintaining the members of the other social order, the brahmacharis, vanaprasthas, and the sannyasis. Except for the grahastha or the householder, everyone is supposed to engage in the spiritual advancement of life. And therefore, the brahmachari, the vanaprastha, and the sannyasi have very little time to earn a livelihood. They therefore collect alms from the grahasthas and thus they secure the bare necessities of life and cultivate spiritual understanding. By helping the other three sections of society cultivate spiritual values, the householder also makes advancement in spiritual life. Ultimately, every member of society automatically becomes spiritual, advanced, and easily cross the ocean of nescience. Sloka 19. यामाहूरात्मनो हार्दं श्रेयस्कामस्य मानिनी यस्यां स्वधुरम् अतस्य पुमांश्चरति विज्वरः. O respectful one, a wife is so helpful that she is called the better half of a man's body. Because of her sharing in all auspicious activities, a man can move without anxiety, entrusting all responsibility to his wife. Purport by Srila Prabhupada ki jai ho. By the Vedic injunctions, the wife is accepted as the better half of a man's body because she is supposed to be responsible for discharging all of the duties of the husband. A family man has the responsibility to perform five kinds of sacrifices called Panchayagya in order to get relief from all kinds of unavoidable sinful reaction incurred in the course of his affairs. When a man becomes qualitatively like the cats and dogs, he forgets his duties in cultivating spiritual values and thus he accepts his wife as a sense gratificatory agency. When the wife is accepted as a sense gratificatory agency, personal beauty is the main consideration. And as soon as there is a break in personal sense gratification, there is di- uh, disruption or divorce. But when husband and wife aim at spiritual advancement by mutual cooperation, there is no consideration of personal beauty or the disruption of so called love. In the material world, there is no question of love. Marriage is actually a duty performed in manual cooperation as directed in the authoritative scriptures for spiritual advancement. Therefore, marriage is essential in order to avoid the life of cats and dogs who are not meant for spiritual enlightenment. Hare Krishna.
The wife is considered to be a better half. Next. Sarvash Yama Shitendriya Rati Durjayan Itarashramahin Vayam Jayema Kikelati Tasyan Durgapatiriyatha. He says, as a fourth commander, very easily conquered, invading planters. By taking shelter of a wife, one can conquer the senses, which are unconquerable in the other social order. So whatever is said is not wrong, Shep Muni is saying, but this is a typical materialistic way. And that is true. If a person is married, then he can conquer his senses because he can use the senses in the proper way, and after that he is fed up. And then he will not. So then that means right use of the senses. It is not like unrestricted senses, but right use of the senses. Rest ashram. But it is a typical talk of a materialistic person. Now, Kashyap Muni, if Kashyap Muni is speaking like this, glorifying the wife, yes, that is also there, but we do that. Now, what is said, see, Navayam Prabhavastam Tam Tvam अनुकर्तुं ग्रहेश्वरी अप्या अप्यायुषा वा कास्म्येन ये चान्ये गृणगृह्णवः गृह्णवः O Grah Ishwari, O Queen of the Home. So just see how beautiful is the talk. We are not able to act like you, nor could we repay what you have done. Even if we worked for our entire life or even after death, to repay you is not possible, even for those who are admired such personal qualities. That is true. What a wife does, a husband cannot do, cannot even repay also. Carrying the child in the womb, taking care of the child. But if you see materialistic husband, they don't praise. Kashyap Muni is a can say it behaves like a materialistic person, but no, he's admiring also. So how Krishna admires Radharani and all the gopis, taking that mood, he is admiring. So in one way, you can say it is some completely materialistic talk. Another way, अथापि काममेतं ते जात्यैः करवाण्यरम् यथा मां नातिरोचन्ति मुहूर्तः प्रतिपादयति. So very difficult to repay what you have done. I shall satisfy your sex desire for begetting a child, but you must wait for a few seconds so that others may not reproach me. Pratirochanti. So for some time, just wait. I'll give you. He's praising at the same time. He's asking. This time is not Esha Goratama Vega Goranam Goradarshanam. Charanti Yasyam Bhutani Bhutesha Chanucharani. This time is not auspicious. This is how actually the husband should counsel the wife. But most of the time we see the husbands howling and shouting to us. It shouldn't happen. So just see how nice, kind talk. This time is not proper. Because at this time, the horrible looking ghosts and constant companions of the Lord of the ghosts are visible. Okay, till here, Aruna read 20 of this.
Hare Krishna. Text 20.
Till here.
Yama 20, 20th, na?
Yeah. 20 to 23, read and finish it. Read it 20.
Huh. 20. Yama Shityendriya Ratim Durja Yanitarashramaihi Vayam Jayema Helabir Tasyun Durgapatiryatha. Translation. As a fort commander very easily conquers invading plunderers by taking shelter of a wife, one can conquer the senses which are unconquerable, even the other social orders. Purport by Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Of the four orders of human society, the student or brahmachari order, the householder or grahastha order, the retired or vanaprastha order, and the renounced or sannyasi order, the householder is on the safe side. The bodily senses are considered plunderers of the fort of the body. The wife is supposed to be the commander of the fort, and therefore, whenever there is an attack on the body by the senses, it is the wife who protects the body from being smashed. The sex demand is inevitable for everyone, but one who has a fixed wife is saved from the onslaught of these sense enemies. A man who possesses a good wife does not create a disturbance in the society by corrupting virgin girls. Without a fixed wife, a man becomes a debauchee of the first order and is a nuisance in the society, unless he is a trained brahmachari, vanaprastha, or sannyasi. Unless there is rigid and systematic training of the brahmachari by the expert spiritual master, and unless the student is obedient, it is sure that the so-called brahmachari will fall prey to the attack of sex. There are so many instances of fall down, even for great yogis like Vishwamitra. A grahastha is saved, however, because of his faithful wife. Sex life is the cause of material bondage, and therefore it is prohibited in three ashramas and is allowed only in the grahastha ashrama. The Grahastha is responsible for producing first quality brahmacharis, vanaprasthas, and sannyasis. Text 21. Na vayam prabhavastam tvam anukartum gruheshwari apyayusha vakat svena ye chanye guna grindhavah. Translation: O Queen of the home, we are not able to act like you, nor could we repay you for what you have done. Even if we worked our entire life, or even after death, to repay you is not possible, even for those who are admirers of personal qualities. Purport by Srila Prabhupada ki jai. So much glorification of a woman by her husband indicates that he is henpecked or is talking lightly in joke. Kashyapa meant that householders living with wives enjoy the heavenly blessings of sense enjoyment and at the same time have no fear of going down to hell. The man in the renounced order of life has no wife and may be driven by sex desire to seek another woman or another's wife and thus go to hell. In other words, the so called man of the renounced order who has left his house and wife goes to hell if he again desires sexual pleasure, knowingly or unknowingly. In that way, the householders are on the side of safety. Therefore,
Mhm.
husbands as a class cannot repay their debt to women either in this life or in the next. Even if they engage themselves in repaying the woman throughout their whole lives, it is still not possible. Not all husbands are as able to appreciate the good qualities of their wives, but even though one is able to appreciate these qualities, it is still not possible to repay the debt to the wife. Such
Mhm.
mode of joking. Text 22. अथापि काममेतं ते प्रज्ञाते करवाण्यलं यथा मां नातिरोचन्ति मुहूर्तं प्रतिपालय. Even though it is not possible to repay you, I shall satisfy your sex desire immediately for the sake of begetting children, but you must wait for only a few seconds so that others may not reproach me. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. The henpecked husband may not be able to repay his wife for all the benefits that he derives from her, but for begetting children by fulfilling sexual desire, it is not at all difficult for any husband unless he is thoroughly impotent. This is a very easy task for a husband under normal conditions. In spite of Kashyapa's being very eager, he requested her to wait for a few seconds so that others might not reproach him. He explains his position as follows. Hare Krishna.
Mataji, one more sloka 23.
23 also.
Oh,
Yes, Mataji.
Esha, Esha, text 23. Esha Goratama Vela, Goranam Goradarshana, Charanti Yasyam Bhutani, Bhuteshanucharaniha. Translation: this particular time is most inauspicious because at this time the horrible looking ghosts and constant companions of the Lord of the Ghosts are visible. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. Kashyapa has already told his wife Diti to wait for a while, and now he warns her that failure to consider the particular time will result in punishment from the ghosts and evil spirits who move during this time along with their master, Lord Rudra. Hare Krishna.
So stop here because I have to start with the second question. So you also please. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Hare Ram, Hare Ram. Gyandeep Prabhu, Aruna Mataji, you can lead the group.
Yes, Mataji, Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. So where were we? Second canto, where were we?
22 done. 2.8.22 was done.
2.8.22. The recording is on. 2.8.22. So now the questions by King Parishit is going on. So many questions have been asked. यो वानुषायिनां सर्गः पाषण्डस्य च सम्भवः आत्मनो बन्धमोक्षो च देवस्थानं स्वरूपतः. 22 was done or 22 we have to do? I think it is done.
22 is
22
done,
was done.
Mataji.
22 was done.
Yeah. So how the living entities are created? There are Pashandis also. There are wonderful unconditioned, those are unconditioned, they are also existing. So today we'll start with 23rd. Yathat matantro bhagavan vikriyatyatma mayaya visrujya va yatha mayam udaste sakshi vibuhu atmatantrataha. So Lord is atmatantra. Atmatantraha. Atmatantra. It means he is independent. The Lord is independent and he enjoys his pastimes, Vikridati, Atma Maya. How he enjoys his pastimes by his internal potency. And in the time of annihilation, what he does, he gives everything to his external potency. And he observes the annihilation. See how how wonderful it is. When pastimes are there, he is visible. He is there, he is seen, he does it. And at the time of annihilation, destruction, that is not his job. But he does it through his Kala Shakti. But he observes it. He is a witness to everything. Recording is ongoing. Recording is going on. सर्वमेतश्च भगवन् पृच्छतो मेनु पूर्वशः तत्त्वो तत्त्वतो हस्युदाहर्तुं प्रपन्नाय महामुने. So Parikshit Maharaj is asking all these questions to Sukdev Goswami. He says, "Oh great sage, all these inquiries. I have not been able to ask. Pruchatah. I am inquisitive. Anu Parvashaha. I have not asked, I have not inquired from you from the very beginning. I may not have inquired from you from the very beginning of my questionings. Many questions I have put forward, but so many things I have not asked. So kindly explain. Dahartum. You let me know all these things. So in this way, great sage, representative of Lord, kindly satisfy my inquisitiveness in all that I have inquired from you and all that I may not have inquired. So whatever I have inquired, you ask. You let me know that also. If something is left out, then that also you teach me. Since I am a soul surrendered unto you, please impart full knowledge in this connection. So something I would have asked, something I would have not asked. But you don't keep anything left. So teach me everything. अत्र प्रमाणं हि भवान् परमेष्टि यथात्मभुः अपरे चारुतिष्ठन्ति पूर्वेषां पूर्वजैः कृतम्. Yourself, Bhavan, you are like Parameshti. You are as good as Brahma, the original living being. So, Atma Bhu, who is born from Lord, there is Brahma. Anutishtanti, you just have to follow. Others follow custom only as followed by the previous philosophical speculations. So just we have to follow Anutishtanti, Purvesha, like how the matter of customs happen. In the custom means in the previous also all is to follow the parampara. So in the same way, I just want to learn from you, Purvajahi, how the knowledge is to come from the previous acharyas. In the same way, I'm just inquiring unto you. Okay. So 23rd, 24th, 25th. Jagadanmaya,
Yes, Mataji. Didi. यथात्मा तंत्रु भगवान् विक्रीड विक्रीडत्यात्ममायया विसृज्य वा यथा माया मुदास्ते साक्षिवद्विभुः. Translation covered by Srila Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. The independent personality of Godhead enjoys his pastimes by his internal potency and at the time of annihilation gives them up to the external potency. And he remains a witness to it all. Purport. Lord Sri Krishna, being the supreme personality of Godhead and the fountainhead of all other incarnations, is the only independent person. He enjoys his pastimes by creation as he desires and gives them up to the external energy at the time of annihilation. By his internal potency only, he kills the demon Putana, even though enjoying his pastimes in the lap of his mother Yashoda. And when he desires to leave this world, he creates the pastimes of killing his own family members, Yadukula, and remains unaffected by such annihilation. He is a witness of everything that is happening, and yet he has nothing to do with anything. He is independent in every respect. Maharaj Parikshit desired to know more perfectly, for a pure devotee ought to know well. Verse 24. सर्वमेतच्च भगवन् पृच्छतो मेनु पूर्वशः तत्त्वतो हर्ष्युदाहर्तुं प्रपन्नाय महामुने. O great sage, representative of the Lord, kindly satisfy my inquisitiveness in all that I have inquired from you and all that I may not have inquired from you from the very beginning of my questioning. Since I am a soul surrendered unto you, please impart full knowledge in this connection. The spiritual master is always prepared to impart knowledge to the disciple, and specifically when the disciple is very inquisitive. Inquisitiveness on the part of a disciple is a greatly necessary for the progressive disciple. Maharaj Parikshit is a typical disciple because he is perfectly inquisitive. If one is not very inquisitive about self realization, one need not approach a spiritual master simply to make a show of discipleship. Not only is Maharaj Parikshit inquisitive concerning all he has acquired about, but he is also anxious to know about what he has not been able to inquire. Factually, it is not possible for a man to inquire about everything from the spiritual master, but the bona fide spiritual master is able to enlighten the disciple in every way for the disciple's benefit. Verse 25. अत्र प्रमाणं हि भवान् परमेष्ठि यथात्मभुः अपरे चानुतिष्ठन्ति पूर्वेषां पूर्वजैः कृतम्. O great sage, you are as good as Brahma, the original living being. Others follow custom only, as followed by the previous philosophical speculators. It may be argued that Shukadev Goswami is not the only authority of perfect knowledge in transcendence, Because there are many other sages and their followers. Contemporary to Vyasadeva, or even prior to him, there were many other great sages such as Gautama, Kannada, Jaimini, Kapila, and Ashtavakra, and all of them have presented a philosophical path by themselves. Patanjali is also one of them, and all these six great rishis have their own way of thinking, exactly like the modern philosophers and mental speculators. The difference between the six philosophical paths put forward by the renowned sages above mentioned and that of Shukadev Goswami, as presented in the Srimad Bhagavatam, is that all the six sages mentioned above speak the facts according to their own thinking, but Shukadev Goswami presents the knowledge which comes down directly from Brahmaji, who is known as Atma Bhuhu, or born of and educated by the Almighty Personality of Godhead. Vedic transcendental knowledge descends directly from the personality of Godhead by his mercy. Brahma, the first living being in the universe, was enlightened, and from Brahmaji, Narada was enlightened, and from Narada, Vyasa was enlightened. Shukadev Goswami received such transcendental knowledge directly from his father Vyasadeva. Thus, the knowledge being received from the chain of disciplic succession is perfect. One cannot be a spiritual master in perfection unless and until one has received the same by disciplic succession. That is the secret of receiving transcendental knowledge. The six great sages mentioned above may be great thinkers, but their knowledge by mental speculation is not perfect. However perfect an empiric philosopher may be in presenting a philosophical thesis, such knowledge is never perfect because it is produced by an imperfect mind. Such great sages also have their disciplic successions, but they are not authorized because such knowledge does not come directly from the independent Supreme Personality of Godhead, Narayana. No one can be independent except Narayana. Therefore, no one's knowledge can be perfect, for everyone's knowledge is dependent on the flickering mind. Mind is material, and this knowledge presented by material speculators is never transcendental and can never become perfect. Mundane philosophers, being imperfect in themselves, disagree with other philosophers because the mundane philosopher is not a philosopher at all unless he presents his own theory. Intelligent persons like Maharaj Parikshit do not recognize such mental speculators, however great they may be, but hear from the authorities like Shukadev Goswami, who is non different from the Supreme Personality of Godhead by the Parampara system, as is specifically stressed in the Bhagavad Gita. Hare Krishna.
न मे सभः परायन्ति ब्रह्मन् अनश्वनादमि पिबतोऽच्युतपीयूषम् तद्वाक्या तद्वाक्याब्धि विनिश्रुतम्. So Brahmana, because of my drinking the nectar of the message of the infallible Lord, which is flowing down in the ocean of your speech, I do not feel any sort of exhaustion due to my fasting. Vayam Natrupyam Uttama Shloka Vikrami Shlotam Rasagyanam Swadu Sadhu Pade Pade. First chapter speaks about. Even Shaunakadi Rishi also they say Vayam Natrupyam. I'm drinking. Ivataha. What am I drinking? Piyusham Achyutaha. The nectar of the infallible. And it is coming from where? Vakyabdihi, from your emotional speech. That is why Name Asavaha Parayanaha. I'm not exhausted. I love to hear. The more we hear, the more we hear about Lord. One is not exhausted. Material life gives exhaustion, but spiritual life gives energy. There is a difference in the spiritual life and material life. Okay. So Amal Prabhu, read this.
नामे असवपरायन्ति ब्रह्मन् अशनादि अंशनादमि पिबतो अच्युत्य पीयूषम तद्वाक्ये अब्धि विनिश्रुतम. Translation and purport by Srila Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. O learned Brahmana, Because of my drinking the nectar of the message of the infallible personality of Godhead, which is flowing down from the ocean of your speeches, I do not feel any sort of exhaustion due to my fasting. Purport. The disciplic succession from Brahma, Narada, Vyasa, and Shukadeva Goswami is particularly different from others. The disciplic succession from other sages are simply a waste of time, being devoid of Achyutya Katha or the message of the infallible Lord. The mental speculators can present their theories very nicely by reason and arguments, but such reasons and arguments are not infallible, for they are defeated by better mental speculators. Maharaja Parikshit was not interested in the dry speculation of the flickering mind, but he was interested in the topics of the Lord, because factually he felt that by hearing such a nectarian message from the mouth of Sukadeva Goswami, he was not feeling any exhaustion, even though he was fasting because of his imminent death. One can indulge in hearing the mental speculators, but such hearing cannot endure for any length of time. One will be exhausted very soon from hearing such hackneyed ways of thinking, and no one in the world can be satisfied simply by hearing such useless speculations. The message of the Lord, especially from a personality like Sukdev Goswami, can never be tiring, even though one may be exhausted from other causes. In some editions of Srimad Bhagavatam, the text of the last line of this message reads, Anyatra Kupita Dvijat, which means that the king might be overwhelmed by the thought of his imminent death by snake bite. The snake is also twice born, and its anger is compared to the cursing Brahmana boy who was without good intelligence. Maharaja Parikshit was not at all afraid of death, for he was fully encouraged by the message of the Lord. One who is fully absorbed in Achutya Katha can never be afraid of anything in this world. Hare Krishna.
One who is hearing Krishna Katha, he doesn't have any tiredness.
Mataji,
Generally, people think, yes, yes, yes.
one question, why this snake is called twice born?
Why is one? Sakshat, na? He's a Brahmana actually.
Oh, this particular
That's
snake,
in
not
this
every snake, no?
order.
Okay.
Because he comes in the form of a snake actually, twice born. Comes in the form of a snake. Is what twice born is who? A Brahmana, na? Dvija. Not all the snakes are Dvija. Then every Brahmana will be Dvija then. Every
Yes.
Brahmana is a snake then.
Taksha was a Brahmana in previous life, or he is considered a Brahma in the present. He is snake.
Because in the Leela, na, see what happens when the Leelas, where comes the Parsharas? And who has daring to touch Parikshit Maharaj? Actually, even the Parikshit Maharaj, who has been touched by the snake, is not the original Parikshit.
Okay.
Because how can Parikshit Maharaj be cursed? There is one question is asked. Parikshit Maharaj cannot be cursed first. So the eternal Parikshit is different, and one who is inclined to hear about is Parikshit Maharaj is inclined to hear about God. But for the Leela, the same Parikshit's expansion, because Akshat comes and uh,
Okay.
now he is born as twice born. Snake. The snake is also twice born, and its anger is compared to the suppressing Brahmana boy who was without intelligence. Now he is also twice born in the sense, another sense is like how that Brahmana gave the curse, that boy gave the curse. Shamik, na? Shamik, he gave the curse. So like that, this person is also getting angry. So that is why the comparison also is given like that. He is also twice born. श्रुत्वाच स उपामन्त्रितो राज्ञा कथायामिति सत्पते ब्रह्मरातो भृशं प्रीतो विष्णुरातेन संसदि विष्णुरातः Vishnuratha is Parikshit Maharaj. His one name is Vishnurat. The Suta Goswami says Saha. Sukadeva Goswami. Upamantritaha, he is being inquired so much by the king, Yathayan, about the topics. Sapatehe, topics regarding the highest truth. Brahmarataha, again Sukadeva Goswami is known as Brahmarataha, and Parikshit Maharaj is known as Vishnurat. So Sukadeva Goswami is invited by Parikshit Maharaj to speak on topics of Lord Krishna with the devotees. When this is Sukadeva Goswami is very much pleased. प्राह भागवतं नाम पुराणं ब्रह्म संहितं ब्रह्मणे भगवत प्रोक्तं ब्रह्मकल्प उपाकते.
27 we have left.
It is now 27, not 28 or something.
26 we had read, Mataji. Then 27. You were reading 28.
Yeah, 27 just now I did. Vishnu Ratah, Brahma Ratah. We are going continuously.
Okay.
28. Then two verses will be read together. Praha Bhagavatam, the science of personality of God. Bhagavatam. It is a science. What is Bhagavatam? It is a science. Nama Puranam, it's a supplement of Vedas. Its name is Bhagavatam. Brahma Samhitam. It is in accordance or pursuance with the Vedas. Brahmane. And to Brahma, Lord spoke this. Bhagavat Proktam, Lord spoke this to Brahma. Brahma Kalpe, in the millennium in which Brahma was first generated. Upagate, just in the beginning. So just in the beginning, Bhagavatam was spoken. Okay. Now two verses. Krishna Priya read. You can read. Krishna Priya cannot read, she told me. Who cannot read Krishna Priya or Vimala? Krishna Priya can read. Yeah.
हरे कृष्ण दंडवत प्रणमते सूत उवाच स उपाममन्त्रितो राज्ञा कथयामीति सम्पतेः ब्रह्मरात्रो भृशां प्रीतो विष्णुरातेन संसदि. Translation and purport by Srila Prabhupada, Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Suta Goswami said, thus Sukadeva Goswami, being invited by Maharaja Parikshit to speak on topics of the Lord Sri Krishna with the devotees, was very much pleased. Purport. Srimad Bhagavatam can be legitimately discussed only among the devotees of the Lord. As the Bhagavad Gita was authoritative discussed between Lord Krishna and Arjuna, the Lord and the devotees respectively. Similarly, Srimad Bhagavatam, which is the postgraduate study of the Bhagavad Gita, can also be discussed between the scholars and devotees, like Sukadeva Goswami and Maharaja Parikshit. Otherwise, the real taste of the nectar cannot be relished. Sukadeva Goswami was pleased with Maharaja Parikshit because he was not at all tired of hearing the topics of the Lord and was more and more anxious to hear them on and on with interest. Foolish interpreters unnecessarily tackle the Bhagavad Gita and Srimad Bhagavatam when they have no access to the subject matter. There is no use in non-devotees meddling with the two topmost Vedic literatures. And therefore, Shankaracharya did not touch Srimad Bhagavatam for commentation. In his commentation on the Bhagavad Gita, Sri Pada Shankaracharya accepted Lord Krishna as the Supreme Personality of Godhead. But later on, he committed from the impersonalist's view, but being conscious of his position, he did not commit on the Srimad Bhagavatam. Sukadeva Goswami was protected by Lord Krishna, Vedic Brahma Purana, and therefore he is known as Brahmarata. Sriman Parikshit Maharaja was protected by Vishnu, and thus he is known as the Vishnurata. As devotee of the Lord, they are always protected by the Lord. It is clearly also in this connection that a Vishnurata should hear Srimad Bhagavatam from Brahmarata, and no one else, because others mispresent the transcendental knowledge and thus spoil one's valuable time. Text 28. Raha Bhagavatam Nama Puranam Brahma Samhitam Brahmano Bhagavat Proktam Brahma Kalpa Upagate. Translation and purport by Srila Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. He began to reply the inquiries of Maharaja Parikshit by saying that the science of the personality of Godhead was spoken first by the Lord himself to Brahma when he was first born. Srimad Bhagavatam is the supplementary Vedic literature, and it is just in pursuance of the Vedas. Purport. Srimad Bhagavatam is the science of the personality of Godhead. The impersonalists always tries to misrepresent the personal features of the Lord, not knowing the science of this great knowledge. And Srimad Bhagavatam is in pursuance of the Vedas and scientific knowledge of the personality of Godhead. To learn this science, one should take shelter of the representative of Sri Sukadeva and follow in the footsteps of the Maharaja Parikshit without foolishly attempting to interrupt, thereby committing a great offense at the feet of the Lord. The dangerous ways of the interpretations by the non devotees class of men have played havoc in understanding the Srimad Bhagavatam, and the careful student should be always alert in this matter if he at all wants to learn the science of the Godhead. Hare Krishna.
Last verse now. Last verse of this chapter would also end here. Yat Parikshit Rishabha Pandunamanupuchhati Purvanyena Purvyena Purvyena Tat Sarvam Akyatum Nrupa Chakrame Akyatum Upachakrame Yat. So whatsoever Parikshit, Rishabha is the best. Pandunam, the dynasty of Pandu. Anupruchati goes on inquiring. Anupurvena, from the beginning to the end, all these. Sarvam Akhyatum is fully prepared to, he prepared himself for Chakrame. So in this way, Sukadeva Goswami prepared himself to reply to all that Parikshit Maharaj inquired from him. And Parikshit Maharaj is glorified here. He is the best in the dynasty of the Pandus, and thus he was able to ask the right questions from the right person. So asking question is also an art. And Parikshit Maharaj, the best person, Rushabha. So read the last verse. Narayana has come. Narayana Jagannath, we have the last.
Yes, Mataji.
Lakshmi Narasimham Sharanam Prapatti.
What? Yet,
Mataji, I was chanting Narsim Sutra. Yad,
Okay.
yad, 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 pariksha, parikshadrushabah, parikshidrushabah, pandunam, anuprachati, anupurye, purvyena, tatsarvam, akhyat, akhyatumupachakrame. Translation and purport by Srila Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Translation. He also prepared himself to reply to all that King Parikshit had inquired from him. Maharaj Parikshit was the best in the dynasty of the Pandus, and thus he was able to ask the right question from the right person. Purport. Maharaj Parikshit asked many questions, some of them very curiously, to know things as they are, but it is not necessary for the master to answer them in the order of the disciples' inquiries, one after the other. But Shukadeva Goswami, experienced teacher that he was, answered all the questions in a systematic way as they were received from the chain of disciplic succession. And he answered all of them without exception. Thus ends the Bhaktivedanta purports of the second canto, 8th chapter of the Srimad Bhagavatam, entitled questions by King Parikshit.
Next chapter is answers, citing Lord's versions. That means examples, what Lord has spoken. So this, so let us do it on Tuesday. Is it okay with you? Any questions now? Actually, I have to go somewhere. That is why today all classes